Welcome to literary and jury charge practice. Let's get started with some jury charge. The title of this, the subject of this jury charge is What is an Executive? Ready? Here we go. Good executives are fat and thin, tall and short, bald and heavy thatched, clean-shaven and bearded. In fact, they look like other men who are not business leaders. What makes them different? Most leaders in fields other than industrial management have a specific talent or high intellectual ability. The management leader has, however, more than a particular skill and high intelligence. He also has administrative competence and the power to make men follow him because of personal attributes. Let's take the personal qualities first. He is intelligent. He thinks clearly and concisely about his business and its problems. Decisiveness is a part of this intellectual ability. He makes up his mind, then acts, not out of stubbornness, but because his decisions are based on sound judgment after all the facts are discovered and reviewed. Open-mindedness is another phase of his intelligence. He absorbs many points of view, particularly those of his competitors, his fellow associates, and other people and trends that affect his company. He knows what goes on beyond his own specialties and interests. Best of all, his affinity to open-mindedness and decisiveness is controlled by a quiet self-confidence, not a brassy evidence of assurance. He is emotionally stable. A top executive with the ups and downs of a camel's back continuously misleads his caravan of workers. They are confused by his moodiness and inconsistency. Unless they can judge his reactions and know what is expected of them, they fall apart as a team. His emotional outbursts, besides misleading them, warp his own thinking. When he permits his personal feelings to intrude on the job and explode, he dynamites his own productivity. He is skillful with people. A management leader realizes the importance of people to him and his business. He is very sensitive to what makes them tick. He probably has no degree in psychology, but he does know that men will follow the example he sets and will develop firm, pleasant relationships. His instinctivity accepts responsibilities. When management was a young profession, the manager felt responsible only for more black figures than red in the ledger to show his stockholders. However, the good executive has stretched this responsibility to include the welfare of his employees and his community until now he feels more and more answerable to many people. Because of this feeling, he acquires a reputation for dependability, which he wants to live up to. In living up to it, today's good leader has a firmer grasp than yesterday's of the interrelations between his company and the social, political, and economic factors in his entire environment. He is dynamic. This does not mean he has a high-pressure personality. A good man can be as dynamic as the strikingly active person. It does mean that he dislikes the status quo, that he seeks new paths, new ideas, that he likes to accomplish and to grow. He dislikes to do things one way simply because they were always done that way. He wants to do new things. It is this dynamic quality, this driving power, that keeps smart management from running a good thing into the ground. He expresses himself clearly. The good executive makes himself understood, whether through the written or the spoken word. To get his meaning across simply and directly is vital in letters, reports, written orders, speeches, meetings, and casual conversation. These are his personal characteristics. What does he look like as an administrator? He is a planner. He understands the process of planning and applies it from the smallest problem on his desk to the company's big dream. He is an organizer. A plan, no matter how good, must be organized. Poor organization makes a good plan useless. He assembles his resources. He knows what equipment, men, money, materials, time, and energy he will need to carry out his plan. He is a director. He takes a good plan, well organized with the necessary resources available, and directs all three to a successful end. These personal and administrative features make up the profile of a good executive. By them, he is recognized even in the dark. No such thing as a typical executive exists, but all real leaders are and do these things. How they do them is up to the individual. One executive does them differently from another because any good leader tries to be himself and accomplish things in the way that comes most naturally to him. The fact remains that he has these traits and activities. Many people have the same traits, but they are undeveloped. Given the opportunity to bring them out of cold storage, they can be leaders too. Now for some literary material. Ready? And the title actually of this is Court Reporters, Entrepreneurs, and More. Ready? How to achieve success in business. I attribute my success to my father, an architect and builder who had his own business for many years. He never stopped, and he loved what he was doing. I never once heard him complain about work. To this day, my dad teaches a carving class to seniors, as if he's not a senior. Her two sisters and a brother have also run businesses. I think when you have role models like I had, it's difficult not to follow in their footsteps a bit. I wanted my sons to see how you start something from the ground up. When you have the vision, you need to map out your plan, and your business plan will change. You need to be ready to tweak things as you go along. Hugh's son, Dylan, is in the third year of his own snowplowing business. Although many small businesses don't expect to make a profit their first year, Diamond Chocolatiers is in the black. And because hers is an online company, the website was key. I didn't like the look or the layout we came up with at first, so we redid it from start to finish, she says, even though that delayed the business launch several months. Because we're not a storefront, the website is our one shot. I go on it every day to make sure it's working properly. Tips for students. Be diligent and focused because it's worth the hard work and the payback is enormous to your career. My preference is freelancing because I enjoy going to different locations, law offices each day, and being with different litigants each day. Ask for help when you realize there's a problem. The court reporters are more than happy to give you tips and advice. Use them. I mentored a beautiful young woman with a long career as a court reporter ahead of her. I truly do not think I have seen anyone as quick on the keyboard as she. Students, just hang in there. It all happens when you least expect it. Tips for working reporters. Just do the work. I do a job out in the field, come home, transcribe as quickly as I can, get the job out, lately just one day, so there's some time for fun left over. Loving what you do makes your work not work. Look at it as a part of you. We, as court reporters, especially freelance, have such a great opportunity to use our time wisely and explore other areas where we may have interests. Life's turning points. After my son died, I had no time for grief. I had a 14-year-old who never got a chance to befriend her brother. She had many years of anguish and difficulties, and I look at her now and see the beautiful, strong young woman she has become. My son Luke was only 7, with no real understanding of a brother, here one minute and gone the next. He became very cautious and extremely reserved. My little bundle of love, AJ, brought my son out of his shell. It was an incredible awakening. I had a plan when Luke went off to school that I was going to be on my own with my grief and just let it happen. Well, guess what? That plan was interrupted by the baby. I guess I'm not in charge after all, but I can decide to wallow in the bad things that have happened, or I can walk strong and tall and be bright and cheerful and give myself a chance to really live. And not for 1 second does a day go by that I don't think about my son CJ and what his life could have been and how sad we all are without him. But I also know how blessed we all were to have known him and have him with us for the time we did. This became a pivotal moment in my life where I just jumped in with both feet. I don't do anything lightly. It's all or nothing. Sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. I get up and start over. All right, let's try another jury charge. And this one is called Action for Unpaid Balance. Excuse me, got the sniffles all of a sudden. So, action for unpaid balance. Here we go. Members of the jury, no written contract or agreement was entered into between the parties to this action with respect to the installation of this plumbing or as to the work or material furnished. The defendant, by his pleadings, has accepted and retained the benefits of the performance made by the plaintiffs in this undertaking to the extent of the benefits received, and the defendant does not ask for a return of the $942 heretofore paid to the plaintiffs or any part thereof. The defendant denies any liability for the unpaid balance of $877 for which the plaintiffs are now suing and which they claim is now due and owing to them for the defendant, and the defendant now seeks to recover from the plaintiffs the sum of $2,000 for the damage to his building caused by the leakage and overflow of water due to the defective plumbing as installed by the plaintiffs, and for the cost of repairing this plumbing so carelessly and negligently installed. So this counterclaim of the defendant is in effect a suit for damages to his property. The plaintiffs claim that they have fully performed their part of the agreement, that the plumbing installed by them was done in a good and workmanlike manner, and that it was functioning satisfactorily in every way. So the first question for you to decide is whether or not the plaintiffs have fully or substantially performed their part of the agreement. So the first question for you to decide is whether or not the plaintiffs have fully or substantially performed their part of the agreement. When a contractor undertakes to do construction work of some kind, he is considered to have substantially performed his work when he has performed his agreement in all important particulars, even though slight or unimportant details are missing. Where there is a substantial performance but not a strict performance, the contractor is entitled to recover the difference between the contract price and the damages caused by his failure to perform strictly as agreed. The burden of proof rests upon the plaintiffs to prove by the preponderance of the evidence that they have performed their part of the agreement in all material respects and in accord with the agreement. Let's try this literary, and the title is Real-Time Software Through the Lens of a Student. Ready? Using steno paper was a great tool in the initial stages of my court reporting education, primarily because it was very easy to use and allowed me to focus more on speed building and reading back my notes. However, as time continued and my ability to read my steno notes and write more quickly increased, my instructor and I both felt it was necessary that I begin to use real-time software, since I won't be using paper once I begin working and am at an assignment. I began to implement the use of real-time software once I reached a speed of 180 words per minute. Since then, I have been using real-time for all of my coursework, and I have found it to be very helpful. I can complete practice exams faster, and I can be more organized since I do not have to save stacks of steno paper. I felt compelled to learn the ins and outs of real-time software as a student because it has such an immense impact on this profession. It enables transcripts to be produced quickly. It helps judges and attorneys get the information they need faster, and it can speed up the overall trial process. It is also the more advanced option during these times in which many legal professionals are trying to find alternative means to record testimony. In addition, many court reporters with their certified real-time reporter credential earn more, and since the profession has become intertwined with this software, it only makes sense that it be emphasized among students. I believe that it is crucial to improve myself professionally prior to entering the workforce, especially because there are perks to learning real-time while a student. Primarily, there isn't any added pressure to know every facet and use of the software in a short period of time, and I can learn real-time as I go. Learning real-time as a student will also make life as a certified court reporter significantly easier because my dictionary will be comprised of a larger amount of legal and medical terms. This is extremely beneficial because I will be better prepared for any type of legal or medical malpractice deposition. Also, a new court reporter who is already familiar with their real-time software will be able to edit transcripts faster and more efficiently and submit court records at a more rapid rate. Likewise, the ability to turn in work sooner will ultimately allow for more assignments to be taken, which can lead to greater earnings. The process of transitioning from steno paper to real-time proved to be quite simple given the fact that I had done my research and knew what software I wanted to purchase. Fortunately, there are many companies that provide reduced rates for students. And that will conclude our literary and jury charge practice.